guys, welcome back to another great episode of KOB TV, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am your host, Ken Johnson, and we are talking about Dudael. Part 2. The Fall of Man and the Rise of Mankind. Or something that's kind of like a man. Not really a man, but kind of like a man. Okay, so based on, let's listen on my last video, the original Dudael, we picked up more context clues and followed them. Let's listen at this once again, and then you can enjoy the ride a bit better.
Of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Dudael hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place.
Did you guys hear that? In Dudael, so Dudael is a real place. I'm about to bring that up. Listen to this last part. We'll listen to a little.
Upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him.
Rough and jagged rocks. Okay, and it goes, and so that leads us to surmise, because he was being punished, and the reasons are because knowledge, and they were teaching us crafts, metal, how to create shields and weapons. And so you have to conclude that if we began to use metal, when was it, where was it, and how was it? And so the place landed us here in the Fertile Crescent. And let me go take you to the Fertile Crescent and slide over a little bit. As you can see, this area over here is the same as Damascus and Lebanon, and I'll show you in a map. But let's read about the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent is a crescent-shaped region in the Middle East, spanning modern-day Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, together with the southeastern region of Turkey and the western fringes of Iran. Some authors also include Cyprus. The region has been called the cradle of civilization because it is where settled farming first emerged, as people started the process of clearance and modification of natural vegetation in order to grow newly domesticated plants as crops. So basically, now this is in contrast to the Garden of Eden that's further down in on the same continent. Now, actually, you can see Lower Egypt, which is part of Africa. This is actually in Europe. So let's go ahead and conclude now. This area here, let me see, make sure you can see that. Okay. Just for reference, I'm going to point out this area here, and then we'll go back to the Fertile Crescent so you can see the resemblance, the similarity. Okay, it's the same, this area here. Okay, and of course, remember Damascus and Dudael is right along here, right? Now, the purpose of showing you all of that. Okay, also, Do not forget this area, Georgia, the balloon is where the Caucasus Mountains. These are the Caucasus Mountains right here, right? Now, this brings us to conclude because we have, you know, decided that based on history and based on and here it is again, the Caucasus Mountains, based on history, science, and folklore, we've concluded, and there is a hole, and that's Damascus and Duma, that the story goes like this, that we were experimenting, and when I say we, I'm talking about the melanated people, were experimenting in genetics. And what makes that true, or somewhat true, is the fact that uh, during the banishment of Azazel to Dudael, uh, the story goes that they came down because they lusted after the women, and then they started having children, and then they began to teach them the knowledge. So we weren't supposed to be doing any of that beforehand, and suddenly we were doing things. And so you have to go and say, well, when did the rise of metal and the use of metal tools come into place? Because if he taught us metal and war and how to build shields and swords and stuff, you would want to trace it back archaeologically. And we do archaeology over here too, guys. We do everything. And so we go and find that the Fertile Crescent is where that is. And we can also conclude that after genetic testing, it is said that things went wrong, and that uh, we had to banish them, and they were banished to the Caucasus Mountains. Now, that would be the area right northeast of this hole, which is Dudael. Let's see if we can actually just slide down real time and maybe squeeze it back a little less and show you the similarities, and that the story pretty much lines up when you really look at it and understand that these special angels were able to possess a physical form as well, not just spiritually roam the earth. And so if he was cast here, and supposedly the banishment of mankind, because that's how you get the definition of mankind, is you're saying that we have men and take animals, you take this and you mix them, we crossbreed. In other words, we were studying genetics, and so we had animal heads with human bodies, and everything that you could possibly think of, and also albinoism, which could, I would think, is the result of the interaction of metal creating a recessive gene. And in history, you can see where metal and the ignorance of it causes people and whole societies to die out. If I remember correctly, one king and his conquering army pretty much perished from drinking out of lead cups because they didn't know the poison value of lead. And so, anyways, that's could potentially be another alternate reason for albinoism. But let's go ahead and stick with genetics for the sake of science, because that's what we know for sure we could study. And so that really concludes it, guys. Is just to give you the idea that if this area here is where archaeologists have coined the Fertile Crescent, and this is where the first artifacts were found. And if you think about it, all of this really is very conclusive. It really shows you that the potential and the possibility of the story being very actually true. And so we can assume that during the banishment of those people to these mountains, we would have accomplished a certain level of skill by that time. Of course, doing genetics and playing with metal. And so some of that knowledge could have gone there uh, and could have grown in isolation. And you can further extrapolate a story of, you know, of just growing a civilization there and we not knowing it. And also, if we were advanced enough to be doing metals and writing, most certainly somebody or something would want to salvage those people and make them slaves, and rather than just throw them away. And so some kind of sorcery could have been performed, uh, seeing that we knew that by that time. And so sorcery could have been performed to raise the spirit or part of the spirit or some spirits or demons and release them in this area where the banishment of mankind was. Because you remember, man would just be natural melanated man, and then you go to mixing him with everything on earth, then you would have mankind, kind of like a man, not really a man. And so that concludes the story, guys. The banishment is here for our genetic defamation, destruction, genetic destruction. The banishment of the evil spirit, the Watcher, to Dudael is here. And all of this area right now is kind of war torn, and it's really interesting. I just thought you guys should know that reality and spirituality are not that far apart. The stories are starting to come together as more and more information comes up and more research is done. Now, we will continue to follow the clues over here to bring you closer to reality, or bring spirituality closer into a closer perspective so that you can understand. Now, remember, the links will be in the description. Guys, like the video, share the video. I'm sure you got something out of it, if nothing but a quandary, a ponder of possibility, postulating potential. So, like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in a minute. Love you. Bye.
Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Situation, aggravation, everybody allegation. In the suit, on the news, everybody dog food. Bang, bang, shot dead, everybody's gone bad. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.